Oh, well, I don't really care. It's not that big of a deal. That's, yeah, I don't know. I don't get Facebook. I also, I am contemplating, I think I might take a full 2022 year break off of Facebook.
Yeah.
I am just I am just so tired of I'm just so tired. I'm tired of social media. I'm tired of the comments and the way people use it. I'm tired of people only seeing their view, their side, and not thinking of bigger pictures and of like other people. And I'm tired of everyone thinking that everyone else is an idiot. You
Right.
know what I'm saying? Like, because that's what it's like. It's like everyone thinks that the other person's an idiot, and if you did this, I got
Right.
muted. Oh man. So I've been contemplating, thinking about taking for this next year, like it's just a full, and it won't be as hard for my parents and for other people who keep track of me because I can use. I normally I don't spend. All it would be to delete it off of my phone and off of my computer. Because if I post anything on my Instagram, a picture of Sam or a picture of us or an update, I always post on Instagram and it cross posts. So
Oh, right.
you wouldn't even know. People would know. People wouldn't even know that I took a break from Facebook. All they would know is that I don't see what they post.
Okay. So if you do that, just don't make a big deal about it and don't put this giant post on there about how, okay, I'm going to see you guys.
No, I will go silently into the night. Like I said, like nobody would know that I even took a break because it would just be. It's like a personal thing
So
that
it's
I
kind of
might
been
just
my
do.
challenge here lately is, um, trying to be a little more. It's debatable, right? Do you spend the time and the energy to try to put something a little more positive out on social media through your, platforms and stuff? Do you stay active
Yeah.
and engaged? And I've had a lot of trouble doing that, even like for the podcast, because I like show up on Facebook for this and for a couple of other things that I'm very intentional about the source
Right?
that I go to. And other than that, I'm just not there very much, and so it's hard for me to stay active in other areas. Um, which also means that the church page doesn't get a lot of traction because it's not being used very much. Youth group page is not being used very much. This page is being used once a week, and nice. Uh, just haven't been able to stay, on top of it because I just haven't been there as much anymore for the same
I
reason.
know.
It's just it's challenging, and it's not very good for my mental health either to sit in that because it just makes me mad.
You know, I have found over, and this is not based off of any study or percentages or anything, but in the last 8 months, 7 months of being here at Pine Tree, because I didn't know anything in the first couple of months, I have noticed that a lot of people will say, like we just had a couple of people. Our preacher was like, "Hey, I met you guys. I've never seen you before. I'm glad you're here visiting." They said, "Well, actually, we know you really well. We've been watching you on YouTube for the last year, and this is our first time actually here." And he was like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah.
And so I've
Right.
actually had more of those kind of encounters that like Facebook is not a place where people are looking up churches maybe as much. And if they live stream, they're going to watch their live stream or their recorded videos or their YouTube channel per se.
Yeah.
So I don't know. That's kind of interesting, and I don't know that holds any weight or anything, but it is definitely something to think about, like the amount of energy that we put into social media. Are we blending into a business type background, or are we, you know, or does it even matter when it comes to religious views?
Hey, write it down. It's good show material. Coming up in 2022.
Till we're all growing a beard. A man's face should never be bare. We just want some facial hair. We're anticipating, yeah, everyone's waiting for a beard.
Hey, good morning, everybody. This is Behind the Beards, and we're glad you've chosen to join us this morning. Here on Behind the Beards, we try to pull the curtain back, take a look behind the scenes, and reveal the things that you need to know about your ministers and your ministry leaders. I am Joshua Fowler, a preaching minister in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and my partner, my brother, in Longview, Texas, a youth minister.
Yeehaw!
Good to see you, man.
Good to see you too.
It's been a weird kind of couple of weeks here for me. I don't know. Everything's just kind of been out of sorts. All kinds of things going on. Saturday. See, I don't know what day it is. Tuesday anchors me. I love being here, talking to you. It reminds me of some things that we need to do and do better. So it's good to be here. Good to be here with you. Anything new in your world?
Well, we got invited to a Christmas party on Friday, and it was our first ever adult Christmas party. A request to leave your kids with a babysitter or somewhere else and come and spend some time. No alcohol, no drinking, no nothing like that. Just an adult Christmas party. And we had the time of our lives. We were very nervous. We were kind of very scared. And, like legitimately, we were like, should we even go? I don't even know these people that well. Da, 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 da. And we went. And it was the most fun, and I'm already planning about what I'm going to bring, what I'm going to wear next year, because it was like, and this is how I explained to Lauren. I said, it is how I want youth group parties to feel like, but I was an adult.
Right.
And it was like everyone had dropped their curtain. You had people who, like, I think are pretty straight-laced, and they're wearing, like, full-on, like, Santa suits to this Christmas party, and we're doing like crazy things that are fun, and it was just so much fun, and it was just a lot of fun. People got to see me and my personality for who I was, and I got to play games and do stuff with other people. Like it was really, really good. So it was a lot of fun, and that's kind of been something that I really needed. So it was really good. And then we had our teen Christmas party. And it was the first time for my teen Christmas party, like the majority of it is, and I love this, is I get a really big gift card. So this year it was a $50 prepaid Visa. And then over the year, like we just wrap it. Like we'll just spend like 5-10 minutes every day or, throughout the year wrapping it, and then saran wrap, and then wrapping it and boxing it and wrapping it. And then we play where they have to roll the dice. And if you get doubles, then it passes the box, and then you get to unwrap it. And it was the first year that I got to do that with these teenagers, and they like went crazy, and it was a lot of fun. And it's always interesting how it starts off really exciting, then everyone starts kind of goofing off, and then when it gets really close to the gift card, people are like, come on, roll doubles, why are you so bad at rolling doubles? And so it's always really funny. So anyway, I've been going off of the Christmas party joys at the moment.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, my wife just got last Friday. She had her pinning ceremony, and so she is now. Well, she's not an RN. She still has to pass the NCLEX, but she is done with nursing school, and she's got a contract to start working in one of the hospitals here on January 15th.
Good job, Heather. You deserve it. She's a hard worker.
She put her career on hold 22 years ago when our oldest was getting ready to be born, and now that our youngest is getting ready to graduate, she's
Your
starting
oldest
her.
is married and about to have a kid.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
I'm just gonna keep reminding you that.
yeah. Please do. You can just call me. I think they're gonna call me
Grandpa
Gordo.
Fowler.
All my
Behind the
Mexican
grandpa
friends
beard.
here like to call me Gordo. So I have a feeling.
Gordita.
I think that's going to be my grandpa name, but we'll see.
Gordita.
No, so that's pretty exciting. Good stuff for our family. I know she's pretty nervous and excited about what's kind of next for her. But that's been pretty cool just to see all of that kind of come to a culmination. She's got her pin. She got her nice white scrubs that she gets to wear once and then put away. She's got a job lined up, and she's super, super happy. So that's pretty cool.
Man, cards are falling into place.
Yeah, it's been good though. It's been really good. Had a lot of things going on here at the church, man, and just some good things in the future that I'm really excited about. So
Nice. Congrats. That's good. That's always nice.
this is a kind of a time of year, holidays where you kind of start looking at what's around the corner. Schedules kind of get changed up. A lot of people are traveling once school gets out. And we even look at, Wednesday nights, Sunday nights, even Sunday mornings. Do we do things a little differently? Maybe do Wednesday nights get canceled or changed? And so we're going to talk about kind of balancing the things that we do in worship as well as, or with all the things that are going on around us where, do we change? Do we change our schedules? Do we cancel services? Do we change events? And kind of what's problematic about that? And kind of when is it appropriate to make some of those adjustments? Because it's much more challenging than just saying, "Hey, let's switch this up a little bit."
Yeah.
What are some of the challenges that you have when it comes to like making some of those changes? What is it that kind of is most difficult for you to overcome?
Well, I think there are so many trains of thought, right? And I guess like our whole point of Behind the Beards is to take you all through maybe the different trains of thought that like a minister or a minister leader, might be going through when they have to think about or make these decisions, right? And so, there's a lot of different trains of thought. There's a lot more. I think a lot of times people just be like, oh, well, they're just canceling this because, and we just have it like singled down to one idea or one thought. And I would say this, like, I have a hard time canceling anything personally. I have a hard time canceling anything. I'm going to talk from a youth group perspective real quick. And tell a little bit of a story. But a mentor of mine told a story one time that they were planning to go on this big retreat and only one teen signed up. And he used to correct my grammar all the time, or the way I said things, because he'd say, Aaron,
I know who you're talking about.
don't say only one teen, because when you say that, you are already defeated. Instead, be excited that one teen showed up and that you get to spend that time to personally evangelize and uplift and learn more about that teenager. That you get to, you get that drive to the retreat, and then you're their youth minister while you're there, and all of these kind of things. And it just kind of changed my attitude when it comes to like youth group activities. That it is extremely rare that for attendance that I will cancel anything. If only, I won't even I have a hard time saying that. But if like 2 or 3 teens show up, it's not about the numbers. It's about the relationship. And if it ever becomes about the numbers that are showing up to your youth group events, then I think sometimes you have to take a step back and you need to think about the real purpose of why you're doing what you're doing. Because if you're not celebrating those who are there and who are showing up, then maybe you are doing this from an unhealthy place.
Right. Hey, I'm going to need you to get off your soapbox for a minute because it's kind of hitting a little close to home. And I'm
my bad.
some of the things I'm about to say right now.
That's my bad. That's my bad. I'll move off of that soapbox. But and so I that's not the topic that we're talking about today. We're not talking about the why we do ministry or the why that you're doing that. But I'm just saying, if we're talking about this broader picture of canceling events, and it's probably because I just don't want to like dive deep into my only conversational point for this entire topic right at the bat. So I'm trying to beat around the bush to get there. But I think there's just a lot of avenues that we have to think about of why we would end up canceling church service or canceling an event. And we just spent a whole year, right, and longer, of being forced to say those words. Hey, we're not having in-person services. And so this is probably I'm not going to, when I talk about canceling church service, I'm not going to talk about canceling it because of COVID reasons. Because we're probably sick of that, and we've probably heard a lot of those.
Right. Well, there's a challenge because, we spend so much of our time together talking about the importance of being together, the importance of going to worship. We teach our kids to prioritize church things, raising athletic kids that had events and activities that were often on Sundays. It's like, yeah, we can make those Sunday events, but if they start in the morning, we're going to be late.
Right.
I wouldn't go play in our company golf tournament because they were only on Sundays. And, I even had one of my partners ask me, he goes, you really don't think you're going to hell if you miss church one time, do you? I said, no, I don't. But I teach my kids how important it is that we worship on Sundays.
Right.
And if one Sunday I choose to go play golf instead of taking them to church, I run the risk of undoing all of those things that I have kind of laid in store for them. And then when it comes to, making a decision for the church, that's one of the things that we balance, right? I mean,
right, yeah.
We've set this as a priority. We said this is important. And so if we're going to change what we do in this moment, there has to be something pressing that really is worth kind of making that move for.
Which is
that's the challenge,
interesting.
Right?
Yeah, because when we get to that challenge, I'll say this, like one of our, when at a church that I used to work at, one of our major concerns on a Wednesday night was a lot of ice, and black ice and stuff like that. And so it got to a practice where we would have this conversation all the time. Hey, could Aaron make it to the church? Yeah, I could make it to the church. Would I slip a little bit in the parking lot? Probably. Would I fall? Probably not. Could I get in? Could I do Bible class and everything? Yeah, absolutely. I could be there. I could do it. However, and this is a whole separate problem in general, okay? But our young families would say, there's black ice out there. I don't think we're going to go. Like, we can just take tonight off. I'm hoping and praying that they say, well, we'll do a family devotional at home. And I do know a couple of those families who did legitimately do that. They would say, no, we'll just do a family devotional at home. The problem was that our 70 plus would say, no, we're going to church. And so you've got 70-year-old people who just had hip replacement, just had some of these surgeries, who are not very stable. And I'm not trying to be ageist or anything like that. I'm just talking about in our context.
Right.
I knew our elderly, and they were, if the church doors are open, we're going to be there type of people. And I'm thankful for them because they inspire me, because I'm the same way you are, Josh. And that's the way that I want to live my life. And that's how I want to live, or how I want to teach my son to live too. But they would be the ones who would show up, not the young families. So it would be the flip-flop. The people who should stay home, the people who should not be out in this weather, are the ones who are pushing and showing up. The ones who can walk and probably would be okay are the ones who choose to stay home. And so we had to just say, hey, we're going to, and this was pre-COVID, hey, we're going to have to cancel service. Post-COVID, it kind of works out pretty good, because now, like, they had the technology, we have the technology to say, hey, we're going to shift to an online class tonight. And everyone's like, Okay, but I can do that, and I can
Right,
still be a
right.
part of this fellowship. So that's kind of, I hate to tell you guys this, but it's kind of a blessing of COVID, is that it has made it easier. It has given people less of an excuse to plug in or to stay involved in that kind of a sense.
And so we always had those tools at our disposal. The difference is there were a lot of our people who were very, very hesitant to even think about engaging technologically with those kind of things. And when that became your only option to connect with the body of Christ, it forced people to realize something. And that is, while this technology might seem daunting, once I put these things in, it's like, oh, this really isn't that hard to do.
Right, yeah.
And certainly this is not something I want to do every week.
No.
But if we have to do this once in a while, we can. And it really has allowed a lot of us to realize it's not that big of an obstacle.
I always wonder how that mentality could be adapted into other things that we consider churchy or church things. You know, hey, do I want to do this all the time? No, but I could do this every once in a while.
And I think Jonathan has a good point here when he talks about how, COVID has allowed us to equip our families to do a devotional at home. And that even if they're not necessarily able to do it themselves, we've provided them those avenues to use our resources to do those things. And so, there's a lot of tools that we've developed. And I think the last year and a half has given us some different things at our disposal where it's not just canceling. We're just, moving mediums.
Yeah.
And for this Sunday, for us, especially through the summer, it becomes hurricane season. And, hurricanes are a little unpredictable. In Kansas and Oklahoma, it was tornadoes, but, those spring up a lot more quickly. In Kansas, it was snow and ice, and so sometimes those things come up overnight. And
okay, real quick, it's the first time ever that we had to cancel a church service in the middle of church service. There was 1 year in Kansas. I'm not kidding you. Like, we got there and it had just started snowing. We did Bible class. We did the opening prayer. We sang 2 songs and
send everybody home.
And then I remember like our elders all looking at the thing, and they went up there and they said, "Hey guys, we're afraid that if we stay here, that you won't have anywhere to, like, you won't be able to get out." So, and I looked out and I didn't realize it, but there was 5 of our young men with a snowplow machine, and they were trying, and there was already like 6-7 inches on the ground, and they were trying to plow and get it so that cars could get out. And we're like, "We love y'all. We're going to say a prayer for your safe travel, but we need you to get out of here so that you can be home."
so that we're not all stuck in the building for a week.
So that we're not all stuck in the building all week. And so, like, we didn't have the sermon. I think we sent home, like, take-home communion kind of a thing, too. But I'd never experienced anything like that before. And I remember going out there in my, slacks, and I think I was wearing Chacos that day, too. My slacks and, of course, Chacos, and this Columbia jacket, and helping to scrape windshields and escort people to their car so they're not slipping and falling and trying to get them out of there. It was crazy. I never experienced anything like that. And it was a snow that just blew in randomly.
Yeah. And, the truth is, when it comes to those kind of things, like doing something with worship is different than doing something with a class time.
Yeah.
And even different than doing something with an event.
Mm-hmm.
And you started talking about that some earlier. It's a lot easier to modify some things around some of the events that we have.
Right.
And I think that threshold is a lot less when it comes to, that event. Even for participation, and depending what the event is, right? Some of the things that we plan require a large number of people. I remember Jonathan telling me a story about a lock-in that he had one time where only one kid showed up.
I just bring it to my house and say, "Let's hang out." Like, you can stay up all night you want, bud, but I'm gonna go to sleep in my bed.
Probably not only the best, but even the wisest thing to continue to go through lock-in with one kid there. That maybe that's the time to adjust the schedule, change the plan a little bit. And so it's a little easier to do with events. But when it comes to Bible classes, it's a different story. Go ahead.
It's hard because people don't like change. And we always make that joke, but like people really like don't mess with my Bible class time, right? Because there's a reason why we put it solidly on the door, right? There's a reason why, like a lot of people say, well, Wednesday night at 7:00. That's the scriptural time that we meet. Like don't mess with that time. So like changing Bible class is very hard. I remember Kansas had a weird Bible class time when I worked there. I also like when I first got here in Texas, our Wednesday night really bugged me at the start because I was like, "Well, you mean it's not 7 to 8? That's what it always is, right?" But it's 6:30 to 7:15. And at start I was like, "This is silly. Like I don't even get a full hour. How do you even get anything done?" Mm-hmm. Being here and being in the culture and now knowing these teens, it's something that I look forward to the most in the week. Because those 45 minutes and really 30 minutes, I feel like are the most intense and the best, and they're the most receptive in those 30 minutes than I've ever had with a youth group in a youth group time.
Right.
And so, but changing, walking into a new youth ministry job, there's things that I wanted to change and times I wanted to change. Sometimes it goes over really well. Sometimes you lose. I remember I tried to change the Wednesday night. Hey, great. Well, the teens will meet from 6:15 to 7:15, so get them here 15 minutes earlier. You know what ended up happening, Josh? I had 2 or 3 teens there at 6:15. I'd try to start, and I would restart the class at 6:30 when the rest of the class showed up.
Got there. Yeah.
And so it was, so it was funny. Sometimes you lose that change.
Well, there's so much that goes into like a class, and so
yeah,
sometimes it comes to. There's been times where we've gotten a rainstorm, and because of the way my neighborhood is situated,
right,
like for a couple of hours, you can't get out of the neighborhood because everything kind of flows to that area. And so roads are flooded with like feet of water. And after a couple hours, it leaves.
Goes to the swamp.
It's right. But, if that rain comes at just the right time, then it's like, well, I can't get to class and I can't teach. So do you call someone who hasn't prepared, who hasn't set these things in place, who isn't not equipped, but isn't prepared to teach, and put them in charge of a Bible class, whether it's a youth class or an adult class? Is that fair for the teacher? Is that fair for the class? To put them in that situation?
Right.
Or do you get together and just sing some songs or just have a devotional? So you have to kind of change some of those things up. I've started just on Wednesday night. I stay at the building all day. I'll come in a little bit later and I just stay until class time, because if something like that does come up, I'm already here.
It's amazing how that just naturally happens for some ministers, because I used to not do that, but now I'll get there at 9:00. I'll drop Sam off at Mother's Day out. I'll do my office hours and get stuff done in the office. Pick him up at like 2:15. I'm like, it's really only 4 hours. It takes me 15 minutes to get home, 15 minutes to get back. That's 30 minutes. So it's really only 3.5 hours. I might as well just stay here. Like I can do some more stuff around here. I've got toys for Sam. We're probably going to do fast food on Wednesday nights anyway, because Lauren's going to get off work. So I'll just tell her to grab something, or I'll run out and grab something and have it here at the church for her, And so, I end up being at the church on Wednesdays for this almost the same reason, sometimes, but from 9:00 to 8:30, on a Wednesday. And talk about a long day, but it just kind of works best, and that's just the way that it's going to happen. But getting back to our topic here, getting back to this idea of canceling services or changing a Bible class. We get into the holiday season, and do you guys have a holiday schedule where you typically, hey, we're not going to have Wednesday night class because it's Christmas Eve. How do you go about having those conversations, or even starting those conversations, or end up where we end up on those conversations?
Well, and so this is where I think we go from class to worship. Because I think there are some times where we recognize that there are those very few moments that families really spend together. Mm-hmm. And sometimes you find yourself in a context of church where, say, on Christmas Eve, they find it appropriate to have some kind of a Christmas Eve service.
Sure.
And so you have that place where your families can do both. Everyone's not in that place, and that's fine. Every church has to be who they are and what they are convicted of.
Not every church is a travel to destination. And
right.
Learning whether or not your church is a travel to or a travel away from.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I've always been a travel from destinations.
Mm-hmm. I've never been to a travel to place.
Right.
And I don't know about Pine Tree. It'll be interesting this holiday season to see.
So if it's an event, certainly I'm probably not going to schedule that in that time anyway. But our classes, we normally will cancel our classes because we would literally have like 5 people here, and those
only
5
people.
Here. No, I didn't say only. I said we would have 5 people, and those 5 people can do something together anywhere.
Absolutely.
And a lot of those 5 people would only be here because, well, it's Wednesday night and the doors are open, so of course I'm going to be here because where else would I be?
Right.
And so we would choose as we'd kind of get together and say, well, we can do this, we can do something else, or we can just meet next week. And then the 5 of us would sit there and decide. If it's worship service, I am much less inclined to change worship service. Like for me to change or cancel a worship service, someone has to be like in danger. There has to be some kind of a safety factor involved. A hurricane, an ice storm, a tornado, something that is a threat to our people if they get out and try to make it to worship.
A loose alligator in the parking lot.
That's right. And that's kind of where it kind of really comes to for me is, am I putting my people at risk by asking them to do something that I know they will do if I make the request for them? And worship is one of those things that just, in my mind, if I am changing or canceling a worship service, there's something really, really drastic, needs to call for that. And now that we have the technology in place to make a quick transition to meeting online, again, not preferred, but we have that where unless a hurricane has wiped everything out and nobody has any power anywhere, or an ice storm has taken out the transformers, we still have the ability to gather in a different way. And people have learned how to make communion at their houses and gather around the computer screen or the TV screen and do what's necessary. So
sometimes it's really easy decisions. Like if your church is used to a holiday schedule and you're used to saying, hey, we don't have class this Wednesday because we know that a lot of people will be traveling. And sometimes it's really difficult. Sometimes it's very hard to make those decisions. And let me just tell you this from my heart right now, is that a lot of these ministry leaders or shepherds or deacons or whatever, whoever is making these or was working together as a group to make these decisions, it's not something like super, super easy. And if it is a decision that they're making it because, they want the safety. It's not out of a laziness or something like that. And we need to, I think in these moments, it's really easy for us when anybody makes a decision just to jump down their throats, just to be like, that's the wrong decision. I wouldn't have done that. And I always love, I love new elders. And that's an interesting comment to say, but I love new elders because a lot of times, like, they'll walk in, they'll be like, this job's easy, I can do this. And then, like, 2 or 3 months in, they're like, this is really difficult. And there's a lot of prayer and a lot of meditation, and you just can't jump, or they'll make a quick decision and do something, and then all of a sudden it'll be like the entire church is upset. And it's like, oh, okay, so I understand, and I understand what grace and mercy looks like and what it looks like when you don't have it. Kind of this idea. And so, anytime you're in a leadership position and you have to make a difficult decision, half of the people are going to be upset. And I've been there when we've canceled Wednesday night because of ice, and people got upset over it and let us know what they thought. And I don't know. I just, I challenge our audience. I challenge our young ministers. I challenge anybody who professes to follow Jesus just to conduct yourself in a way that Jesus would conduct himself in all things. And I need to hear that too. So I'm going to hit record and record myself saying that and say that. And so that comes when we make these kind of decisions. Or when we are forced to make these kind of decisions, or if we're trying to change something, it's not to just purely inconvenience you. I know sometimes churches will try to change their meeting times, so that maybe they can get out a little bit earlier or something like that. I know of this church who's been trying to change. They have 2 services. They want to bump their services up 30 minutes so that the second service can get out a little bit earlier. And the first service people are furious because now they have to get up 30 minutes earlier. And the second service is excited because now they're going to get out, before 1 o'clock,
right?
To be able to grab lunch, since we don't offer a real Lord's Supper, a feast, food. And, the little communion cup only goes so far.
Well, one of the previous churches we attended had a winter meeting time and a summer meeting time for Sunday evenings. And they would move it up with daylight savings time.
Yeah, we tried to do that in Kansas.
And it was hard to keep track of.
Yeah.
Personally,
Right, yeah, it is.
It's the communication aspect, I think, is one of the most challenging aspects. And when you're making the decision to do something different, the question always comes, okay, so the most recent one for us was when Hurricane Ida came through, and so Saturday, as we were watching this hurricane come up, it was like, look, I mean, the peak of the storm is supposed to hit at midnight on Saturday. If we decide to make a decision on Sunday morning and no one has power, how are we going to get the information out to everyone?
Yes, yeah.
And so we have to make a decision on Saturday, and the question is, so here's the deal. We're going to make this decision, and we're going to hope that we have made the decision in vain. Because what we hope is that everyone wakes up on Sunday morning, nothing has really changed, and we can all sit around and gather. I'll have something online for those that have power. Turned out I couldn't do that because we didn't have power, but a whole lot of our people did. But so you make a decision, and then, it ends up being nothing of it, and then you kind of feel like it's wasted. But the truth is, we have to consider the safety of our people. Because it is such a priority in our lives, sometimes we have to make those decisions that we hope were kind of made in vain, because that means people have stayed safe and nothing has really transpired. But in the event that something drastic does happen, we're prepared for it. Because there's a good portion of our people who email and text. There's also a good portion of our people that have to be physically called. And sometimes those are the ones that can kind of slip through the cracks.
Right.
Because we live in such a technologically advanced society. I think it's easy to forget that there's people that we need to notify personally, that this is going on. And there's just there's so much that goes into it, though. And even where there's changing events, changing Bible classes, changing or canceling worship, um, there's so much thought, so much prayer, so much consideration that goes into those things that I didn't realize until someone would call me and ask me to give some input into whether or not we should make this adjustment. And then you start having the conversation, and then you realize how much goes into that. That it's not just someone makes a call, everyone agrees, and then we put the information out. So
Rarely does everyone agree.
that's true. Acts chapter 6 is the greatest miracle
Amen.
in the Bible. Acts chapter 6.
Unbelievable.
And this decision pleased the whole assembly. Greatest miracle ever recorded. Still waiting on
What is it? Somebody said a quote like the best outcome out of a church service, and this was talking about like song selection, stuff like this, is that everybody goes home. Everyone goes home disappointed equally in what songs we're saying, and that made me
funny.
laugh because you
You
always
said the
have
same
like
thing about officiating.
hymnals or contemporary or whatever. Well, everyone thought there was too much of the other.
Yeah, with officiating, if everybody in the stadium is mad at you, you know you've called a fair game.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. What's your behind the beards moment, man?
My behind the beards moment is we talk a lot about grace and we talk a lot about mercy.
Yeah.
And we talk a lot about it, but do we apply it a lot of
Practice
times?
it, yeah.
Do we think about grace and mercy before you hit enter and you post? Do you think about grace or mercy before you get upset? You know, are we so reactionary? Are we so compelled and trained by this world to be entitled to my way is the only way, when we are so thoroughly taught to surrender everything and to fall before the knees, before the feet of Jesus, and to only go his way? Because as far as I'm concerned, the Bible's pretty clear about the only way to God is through Jesus, and that his way is the only way. So we have to stop ourselves from being trained by the world and to continue to train ourselves by the word of Jesus Christ. And that goes in everything that we do. And I think a lot of times I get exhausted by myself and by others who forget who we follow and who we say we are, and what we are, even as a church body. We're not a corporation. We're not an organization. We're a group of people coming together, trying to be like Jesus and do what's best for his kingdom.
Yeah.
And there's a lot there that we need to get behind and figure out and get over ourselves about.
You're starting to preach now, man.
There's too much I in the church. And
Well-
there's not enough knees for people to be on or faces to be fallen on. At the
And
mercy
really-
of the cross.
And really and truly, the one thing you should never change is the one thing we didn't touch on. Don't mess with OC Chapel, man.
Oh,
Oh, you want to catch the ire of the community. That's funny.
yeah.
But you're right. We do talk about the grace and mercy, and sometimes it's hard to put into practice. But
I think it's
recognizing
always
the
hard to
kingdom
put into
that goes on.
practice. I don't think it's
Well-
ever. I don't think there's ever a time where I'm like, oh man, I will practice grace here and it'll be easy for me. I don't think it's ever easy to practice grace or mercy. And that's what's so beautiful about it, is when we do it.
Here's what I see. It is easy for me to practice grace and mercy if my intention behind practicing grace and mercy is so that I can have something
To hold over you.
to hold over you. So now you owe me one, which is still practicing grace and mercy, but with the wrong motivation. I think it's hard to practice it in a pure form that just simply says, I have been shown so much grace, so I will show grace. because I think a lot of times we do have that practice, but it comes back around to there's something in it for me.
Yeah.
And that's just not it's not what we're about as Christians.
Be better. Be
better.
like Jesus. And when we say that, we really want to say thanks for being here today. And we want to remind you of Galatians 6:9. Don't grow weary in doing good. It's hard to practice grace. It's hard to practice mercy. It is hard to be like Jesus. Nobody ever said that it was going to be easy. It's just better. And so don't grow weary in doing good. This world is messy. This life is messy. This world is messed up. So allow Christ to use you to do something different, something good in His name. From Behind the Beards, we love you all, and we will see you next week. I'm Aaron, and this is Josh. And we'll see you later.
Till we're all growing a beard. A man's face should never be bare. We just want some facial hair. We're anticipating, yeah, everyone's waiting for a beard.
Yeah. I always rock out, man. I love that song.
I know. It is good. It's a good little find. I'm just glad my beard is coming back. I feel like
solid.
I feel like I belong on the show now. So.
Yours is so finely trimmed and looks good. Mine is a wookie of a mess because I have not been able to find the cord to my beard trimmer. So it's just dead. I also have not spent a whole lot of effort into finding the cord at the same time.
I hit mine with a straight razor about every 2 or 3 days, so I have to keep it trimmed up here. So, also, what's this white stuff here? That's weird.
That is super white. I'll have Lauren edit your your Behind the Beards logo.
Hey, yeah. Speaking of that, I'll find a way to work that in next time.
Sponsored by.
That's right. Make a little banner.
Special thanks banner.
Special thanks to Simply Lauren Designs.
Well, good show today. Nice mention of OC Chapel. Yikes.
I did that for my daughter.
That got us through the algorithm, I guess.
Maybe. Yeah, Jody is. They have all this stuff going on. They're trying to sign. Somebody's got a petition going.
Yeah,
it's like.
Well, I know why they canceled it.
Little Chapel.
And we're not live anymore.
We are.
Okay, I'll wait until we're not live to talk about why they really canceled it. Because I don't want to be live saying it.
Well, we are.
Not that I'm afraid to say it while live. I just don't want to.
Cliffhanger. You'll have to our two viewers.
Cliffhanger. You'll have to actually do your own research and actually look at the bigger picture and not all the reasons that people say, oh, you shouldn't do it because of this. That's not the reason why they canceled it. You're stupid to think that there's a room of people who would go, oh, well, we really want, we don't want people to be able to have preacher's chapel where they could go and preach, learn how to preach a sermon in front of people. Yeah, we're going to cancel that. Those are all the really good, great things that come out of having small chapels. Those are great, good things. Everybody can see that. However, there is some corruption and there is some exploitation and there is a whole lot of other stuff that's going on that puts the school in danger that's going on in those small chapel settings. And so what do they need to do? They need to hit the reset button. Mm-hmm. They go back to Big Chapel for a year. Then after that, then they can start opening it up to approved and actual good ways of doing, small chapel of approved small chapels. Maybe, maybe I don't know. I'm not a part of those decisions.
Kind of school sponsorship as well. I mean, leadership.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ugh. Ugh.
All right, man. We're going unlive now. Thanks to the
Unlive.
two of you that are left. The post show. We need to find a way of like inviting guests into the post show and the pre-show.
Oh, that would be fun.
That would be fun. One of these days.
It would just be Jonathan and my dad.
Right.
Our most loyal fans. We should
That's
send
right.
them behind the beard stuff.
Let's do it.